What's up, guys? Welcome back to Bike It Yourself, and for this week's video we're going to talk about an accessory that we had added to the Road Glide, oh gosh, probably some time ago. And as my project, or the bike has evolved over time, the purpose of it has actually evolved as well, and some things have changed. And because of those changes, I had to reconsider my decisions that I made in the past. So let's take a look at this accessory and I'll explain a little bit more about the decision. All right, guys, so what are we talking about as an accessory? I'm talking about the backrest for my Road Glide. Now, I bought this as a low-cost item just because I wanted to prove out whether or not having a backrest was worthwhile for me on my bike. At the time, I didn't have the King Tour Pack on this, just because I was going a different direction with the Road Glide at that time. Sometime later on down the road, I decided that I was going to make this truly what it is, a touring bike that I could go, some good distances on, and I wanted to be as comfortable as possible. So I've added on the King Touring Pack and all these other things. In my review of this backrest, I talked about two things. One was the effort that it takes to install it, and not what I mean by full installation, but essentially if you want to take it out so you don't ride with it versus putting it back in. And then another option. So in that video, I talked about you have to take off the seat. You have to, there's a set screw that goes in, so this thing's got little detents. And if you don't have a tour pack on your bike, it's quite a bit easier. You can easily take off your seat. You slide in the bar, and I talked about a modification that I made. So I added in just a little, like a latch pin that I could pull. So that way, once this bar is in, I could slide my seat down over it, right? And then put the backrest on. I just talked about that being a little bit of work, but again, without a tour pack in place, it wasn't too bad. The other thing I mentioned was another model, and that was a model where you didn't have to go through all that effort to install it if you ever decided to take it off. So let's take a look at what that model is. All right, so in the videos in the past, I never mentioned who the vendor was for this backrest. And again, because I kind of just picked it at random, I went with, based on price, I was looking for a low cost part for my bike. I am always on a budget, so I try to get the most bang for my buck. And my thought was, if I liked it and it was not good quality, that I would just replace it with something better quality if I found that it was worthwhile. I found it was worthwhile, and I gotta tell you, this thing has definitely stood up the test of time, so that's awesome. And this is provided by a company called Benlari. So on Amazon, you can find their store. It's Benlari. I'll include their link in the description, so that way you can check this out. And that model was $78. I had mentioned another model, and it's actually also made by the same company. And what it is this is the pinch style for the backrest. Now in the package you get all of your hardware to install it, and this covers, I think, bikes all the way back to 97 to, I want to say 23-ish. I don't know if this would work for your 24s and up with that new design. There are a lot of differences, so I wouldn't be able to tell you for sure. So anyhow, it's got a wider profile than the previous one, so it is a little bit more comfortable looking, at least. And what I like about it is it has this flex. So when you're getting a rider or having a passenger jump on and that's installed, it does get in the way a little bit. And typically what I would end up doing is just taking it off when I had a passenger on, because then my passenger kind of became my backrest, right? So what does that mean? That meant every time I went out on the bike with the wife, I had to pull this off, and then if I wanted it back in, I had to put it back on. And like I said, that included pulling up the seat and all that kind of good stuff, right? So now with this model here, you don't have to do that, because all you need to do is squeeze these two ends and it'll go right into the base of the mount. And then to pull it out, it's the same thing. On the back side, got a little zipper here. When you open that up, it gives you access to the frame of things and the padding. So if you needed, say, for some reason to dry this thing out, and it's got a little drain hole there, you could do that a little bit easier. You could probably pull it off if you needed to clean it for whatever reason. Or even if you needed to stitch it, like maybe you got a tear or something in it, then you could at least pull that off and service it. So let's go ahead and jump into the installation. We won't need all of the hardware because, like I said, this thing covers from 97 and up, not including, I don't believe, the newer bikes. Or maybe it does actually. According to the box here, it says it goes up to 2024. So double check that on their site. Like I said, I'll drop the link in the description, but for now, we've got to pull the old hardware off and put this new hardware on. All right, so I've got the hardware all pulled out of the bag, and like I said, this works for a span of bikes. It is a little bit different from the other hardware. So this is the mount from the old one that we just took out. It was really 2 pieces. This is going to be a 3-piece bracket. So this is going to mount essentially to your fender, and I'll show you all of this when we put it on. But this will mount to your fender. This serves kind of like a bridge to this bracket here, which is going to sit just behind kind of your battery. And again, you'll see it when we put it on. And then you get the nuts and bolts that go along with all of this to get it installed. Now, because I had this one in, I may not need all of them just because I'll reuse what I already had. So anyhow, the big difference, like I said, is you got the holes on the side to allow you to just go ahead and pinch that in, get it in place, and then you can quickly pull it out or adjust it as needed. So that's pretty cool, right? So anyhow, let me go ahead and throw it in and we'll take a look at it. All right, so before we get too far into this installation, what I did want to point out is a major difference from that old bracket to this new bracket is the old one, the lower part of it mounted here to these 2 bolts here that are part of your battery box tray cover thing, whatever you want to call it. Where this one here, the smaller guy, it goes to these holes here that already pre-exist in your model. Now, what's nice about that is you can take off your battery box without having to worry about that bracket being in the way. And this simply goes in there. And like I said, they give you the nuts and bolts that go along with it. So you just want to put that on. They don't look to be nylon locking nuts. So it wouldn't hurt probably to put a little bit of blue Loctite on there just to make sure everything's in place. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's go ahead and throw this stuff together. Okay guys, so we've got that hardware in, got the seat back on, and what we're gonna start doing now is, as you saw, there are multiple holes in that mount to either scooch the mount back or forward or whatever. So you're gonna have to do some adjusting, depending on your bike, depending on your seat too. That's the other component of this. So wherever that slit is cut through your seat for this thing to go through down. So we're just doing some test fitting right now. I wanna show this to you so that way you can understand what it is I'm talking about, and figuring out what's the right spot for not only you, but for your passenger. The other thing to consider too is if you do have a passenger, like I said, I was always taking mine out. That way it just maximizes the space for your passenger. You could probably leave this in, but why not just offer the comfort if you can? And that, you know, passenger on your back seat is always a nice backrest. So let's take a look here. All right, so we got this thing in, and you'll notice it's putting pressure on the front of that slit. So if left long enough, it would probably start tearing this stitching. So what I'm going to want to do is pull this guy out, take the seat off, adjust that mount to go back. Maybe we'll try 2 holes back and see what that looks like, and I'll bring you back. All right, so I got mine adjusted, so you can see now it's not putting like that pressure, which would be separating the stitching, so it's in alignment. What does make it a little tricky is like in order for it to be like that, it has like a little angle to it. So just keep that in mind when you do the installation. What I found is that, you know, the spring or whatever you're having to flex to squeeze the legs together, it's strong, and that might just because it's brand new. So you're gonna have to use 2 hands. But what I did is, you know, as soon as you stick it down into the mount, I kind of angle it and put 1 pin in, and then put pressure on one of the legs as I sweep it down. And then once it's locked in place, it ain't going nowhere. If you want to raise it or lower it, all you have to do at that point is squeeze, and I can't do it holding the camera, but is squeeze the legs, shift it down. You have 3 settings, so 3 different detents that you could set that up to. So I like how it looks. Being wider, I think it's gonna be much more comfortable, but as I always do with new products, I gotta let it burn a little bit. So I'll put some miles on this thing and get back to you guys. Unfortunately, I do have some issues right now that I'm having with my rear tire, so hopefully I'll get that resolved and get back on the road with the Road Glide. Yeah, so we're gonna get some miles on it and see how it goes. But one of the things I really like that the other seat didn't do, so the other one, like I said, I modified it and put that quick release pin in there because the original design had a screw and nut. But what I like about this one is it flips. So depending on your passenger, that's nice and comfortable. They can get behind that without, you know, hurting themselves. Sit on the seat. This is a large seat back here. So again, depending on you, in my particular case, I'm just going to remove this because it's just an added thing, right? It'll be just in the way. But if you do like to leave it in, it's nice to know you can, and it makes it easier for your passenger to get in and out. All right, guys, so before we call this video a wrap, I did want to just say thank you again to the folks over at Benlari. They did provide this backrest for the video. I gotta say, you know what? I've worked with a couple of vendors, as you guys know, and they're, you know, it's awesome when you run into folks who are willing to partner with you, who have great customer service. The Benlari folks, if you're making content and you have their product out there, they're watching you. They want to know how good their product is, and that's important, right? You want to research, like, hey, is the stuff we're delivering, is it good or is it bad, right? And 2 years on that other backrest for $78. That's a score. You can't beat that. This backrest is 84 bucks, I believe it is, on Amazon right now. And watch pricing because it goes up, goes down. Is it going to be worthwhile? I 100% believe it will be. Like I said, I want to feel the difference because it is a different mount. It is wider, so there are some differences, but my expectation is it's probably going to feel pretty good, and I'm going to be very happy with this backrest. So what is nice, like I said, is we get the opportunity to see what these products are like and get an idea of what they're like after you've used them for a while. So it's not just that honeymoon phase, and it's not just about the promotion. The other thing I did want to mention is the tools I use today, with the exception of my magnet stick, are the tools that I carry every day with me in my saddlebag. And one of the best pieces of advice that I found out there in YouTube land was somebody had said, whenever you work on your bike, work on it with the tools that you carry with you, because then you'll know for sure if you've got everything you need. Now, there are going to be some exceptions to that rule. Things like you're probably not going to carry a 36mm socket with you everywhere you go so you can pull off your back tire. If your tire is blowing out, you probably need to get help, right? So, but it's more of the little things that you can troubleshoot on the roadside, get yourself fixed and get yourself going again. So keep that in mind. It's not an everything toolkit, but it's a most things toolkit. And so far, that advice has helped me out significantly in that I don't feel like I'm ever unprepared for an issue that might arise. So I hope that helps you all out. I hope this video helps you make the decision as to what backrest you're looking for. And yeah, I hope to be able to circle back with you here in the near future and let you know how this thing worked out. So until that video does drop, I hope to see you in the wind.